Hi, this is Chad, VP of Products at Slate Digital, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to Submerge, the newest plugin to be added to the All Access Pass subscription. Now Submerge is an auto-ducker plugin. It's designed to replicate the sound of a sidechained compressor, and sidechain compression is very popular in various forms of hip-hop and dance music because it can impart a certain amount of bounce to your rhythm. But it can also be used in other genres. Used subtly, it can be used to clean up mixes. And we've gone a step further with Submerge. Not only does it do compression effects, but it also has some additional modes like EQ, filtering, and sample rate reduction, which can be used for various forms of sound design. So I'm going to walk you through the interface, show you how all the controls work, and then give you some practical examples of how this can be used in music. So let's check it out. All right, so this is Submerge, and before we get started here, I'm going to bypass it and just play this loop so you can hear what we're starting with. Just a nice little chord loop here from Anna 2. Let's go ahead and turn on Submerge. Aha! There is the characteristic ducking sound, which will sound even more familiar with a kick drum in it. There we go. So that is the classic EDM sidechain sound. Just done automatically with Submerge. All right, so how does Submerge work? Well, it's got three sections. Across the top is the first one, which is all about the trigger and tempo. And right now I've got it set to auto trigger mode. So it's just syncing up to my project. I don't need to do anything else. It just automatically starts running in time. The tempo is synced to quarter notes. So that's why I'm getting that quarter note bounce. But I could change it, for example, to half note. Now it runs half as fast, or I could change it to eighth note, for example. And I can even switch sync to free, and then basically treat this just kind of like a free-running LFO, which can be interesting for some sound design purposes. But for now, I'll turn it back into sync, quarter notes. Yep. And we can also trigger this via MIDI. So with no MIDI going in, there's no ducking. You can see that Submerge has stopped. But if I were to take this MIDI track with quarter notes in it and route it to Submerge, now we get the Submerge. And if I mute the track, it stops, and then put it back in, and it starts submerging again. Very simple. And if you want to go old school, you can actually still trigger Submerge with audio. So by setting it to audio trigger, I then just need to choose an audio source as the sidechain. In this case, I'll just choose the kick drum from above. And we see the kick drum coming in here on the meter, and I just need to drag the threshold slider down. There we go. Now it's overlapping, and now we're triggering from the kick drum audio instead. Now, regardless of which mode I use, there's a slider here for delay, which when you slide to the right, delays the ducking, so more of the initial transient of that chord comes through. So yeah, this is how you can tune the response of Submerge on the fly, right up here at the top. Cool. So once you're triggering Submerge, you're actually triggering this shape to run. And this curve here is the natural curve, and you have three different curves you can choose from: natural, extreme, which is almost like a gate, and special, which we'll see has some fun purposes in a minute here. And if you ever select a second time, it inverts the shape. So there's extreme normally, extreme inverted, special normally, and special inverted. But natural just creates the sound of a natural compressor, which is what we've been hearing. And the morph knob changes the shape. So in this case, it's going to sound like I'm changing the release time on the compressor. So I can make it shorter. So now it just kind of ducks just very quickly under the kick drum. Or I can make it long, at which point it almost just like sucks back right before the next beat, which kind of adds some interesting bounce. Very easy to dial in. And then the depth knob chooses how deep the duck happens. So here at 50%, you can hear the chord never goes away entirely. We're still kind of keeping our heads above water. But yeah, the deeper you go, the further under you go with every duck. Same thing's true for extreme. This kind of changes the timing of the gate. So you can get it right on half notes if you want, or just like right at the end, or right at the beginning. Like this is good if you have a really long distorted kick drum. You can have it duck out for the entirety of it. And And then special is kind of fun because it behaves like the natural curve, but it starts to duck before the downbeat. So now you can hear that kick drum is totally clean because the chord has actually ducked out before the kick hits. In fact, if we keep morphing, it turns into a sine wave, which adds some really cool bounce. In fact, we can make it really narrow. Now it's almost like a reggae offbeat sort of sound. It's really cool. Yeah, so you just dial in your shape on the left, and that shape then controls the effect on the right. And in this case, it's set to gain mid-side, which means that we're modulating the gain with this curve, but the tweak knob will allow us to kind of crossfade between either mid-ducking or side ducking, and in the middle it's doing both. Now put your headphones on if you haven't already, and check this out. I'm going to turn this towards side. So now it's just ducking out the side channel, and it's leaving the mono portion of the chord behind. Let me take out the kick drum. Yeah, you can hear the spectrum, the stereo field just goes mono and comes back again full. And I can do it the other way, where we just take out the center, and the side channel always remains. So you can kind of clean up the stereo center of the mix if you need to on the downbeats. Or do a kind of duck that still leaves part of the chord in there, but it feels like a big duck because the sound on the sides disappears as well. Really cool. But there's a whole bunch of other effects to choose from. There's a high duck, which is like a high shelf EQ. You choose the frequency with the knob here. Same with low ducking. Takes the bass out. There's filters with adjustable resonance. Bandpass filtering. Or even like notch filtering, which takes the center frequencies out. We've also got sample rate reduction, which is almost kind of like a 8-bit effect. And you can smooth it out with this knob here to get rid of some of the grunginess. All right, so there you go. That's an overview of Submerge. Now let's take a look at how this works in a song. Okay, so let's explore this song a bit. It's got many different uses of Submerge, from the typical sidechain bounce added to chords, also to some interesting forms of sound design. So let's just take a listen to it here. Going to start it running. And one of the first things you'll notice is there's a bus here of all these instruments. And it's just getting a subtle reduction, mostly in the mid, which is going to make a little bit of space for the drums. So that's with the drum part. In fact, some of these parts here, like this, is being caused by Submerge, kind of using it as a very fast synced LFO in a way, on top of that pad. And there are also some interesting kind of, sound design uses for it here. Again, sort of gated sounds. So this is 2. There's like a fast 16th note happening, plus then a slower quarter note duck to give some bounce. And there are also some interesting glitchy sounds like this, getting changed by the sample rate reduction. Some interesting sweeping happening on the hi-hat for some extra texture. And there's also something really interesting done with the drums right at the beginning. If we listen to the drums, there's an instance of Submerge on here that's going really fast. It's running at 16th notes and it's pulling out the low end. It's using the low duck mode. And the drums sound like this. So it's essentially just shortened the kick drum, because it's removed all the length from the kick drum by pulling down the bass right after that initial attack. And as you'll hear, this effect turns off after the intro. That's actually the whole drum loop by itself without Submerge pulling out the bass very fast. So it's kind of an interesting way to create an intro. It sort of sounds like a high-passed drum part, even though it's not. It's just kind of fluttering very quickly in the low end. In fact, I have a macro here set up on the keyboard. I'm going to turn off all instances of Submerge at once, and we'll hear what we have instead. So this is no Submerge running anywhere. Then we turn Submerge back on. So Submerge has been able to add quite a lot to this track. I think you'll find some interesting ways to use it too. Now, as I always say at the end of these videos, the best way to understand this plugin is to try it out for yourself on your own music. And if you're already subscribing to the All Access Pass or Complete Access bundle, then you can download and install Submerge today and try it out immediately on your own tracks. But if you're not yet a subscriber, just go to slatedigital.com and sign up for the Complete Access Bundle trial. You'll get access to Submerge, plus all of the Slate Digital plugins, plus all of the SSL and Harrison plugins, plus all our samples, our Academy educational videos, and the Virtue Auto mastering system. Everything is included in the one Complete Access Bundle subscription. It's an insane value. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.